Hi, welcome to my room, The Stuff I See. And this is Jacqueline Ware. I'm a poet, a playwright, a spoken word artist, an author, a shower singer, an imaginary musician. But what I'm going to do for you today is read some poems. I started writing poems several years ago, and certainly not as early as Amanda Gorman. The woman is phenomenal. She is brilliant, she is beautiful, she is so talented. But I started writing a few years ago, maybe about 12 years ago, and I got hooked. Hooked on poetry, hooked on prose, hooked on spoken word, and recently hooked on writing plays. And so what I'm going to do for you today is to read a few of my poems, and we have all dealt with so much stuff in our lives. And it seems to be getting worse, the stuff we're having to address, deal with, handle, put up with. So this is the stuff that I see. And we're going to start with a black poem. A black poem. Let the world sing a sweet chariot song in the range of a black poem. Sing it baritone, tenor, soprano, alto, but sing it with purpose strong. Let the world dance an elegant black poem choreographed by Alvin Ailey, dynamic, graceful, vibrant, tap dancing on wood with precision. Like Bill Bailey, let the world be a black poem behind closed doors or in a boisterous crowd. Be brilliant, bright, colorful, shamelessly bold and proud. Let the world laugh. A black poem deep down in your throat. Laugh it loud, laugh at anything that floats your boat. Let the world quote a black poem with the rich metaphors of Nikki Giovanni, Maya Angelou, dripping honey in the rock, others following in their footsteps, taking stock. Let the world breathe in a black poem from the rich, breathtaking Green Valley lows to the magnificent Shanghai Tower. Let the world vote. Let the world vote for a black poem, voter suppression, a faint memory, dead and long gone. Let the world embody a black poem, moving in rhythm, emotions seeping through every pore, the continent beating in unison, hearts move to their very core. Let the world bloom a fragrant black poem, roses, orchid, a black iris, and delicate tulips, suggesting peace, harmony, and lingering bliss. Let the world throb, a black poem, whispering healing before the pulse fades, where there will be no more poems to read, recite, or say. Thank you. End poem. That was called a black poem. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So sometimes, as I mentioned, there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff that we have to deal with, whether it's at work or at home or at school, some other place. And it's just what we see on television, what we're exposed to. And sometimes we're just tired of all that stuff. And so a few days ago, I thought about this poem called Sometimes. And sometimes this is how we feel. Sometimes. Sometimes I can barely stand it. Sometimes I'm doing all right, and sometimes it gets on that very last nerve, like the unwarranted death last night. Sometimes I'm completely unbothered, satisfied, content, feeling completely sane, protesters not calling out my baby's name sometimes. Sometimes it makes you go, what? that foolish, crazy, outlandish stuff. Sometimes I'm about to lose my mind up in here. Sirens wailing make me want to holler. Shouts to stop cause me want to throw up both my hands. All this violence is too hard to comprehend, understand. The insanity beyond comprehension, swallowing up all held precious and dear. Fear in the eyes of a full-grown man, knowing he was dying, had me in tears. Sometimes it is more than I can take, feeling helpless, vulnerable, so much at stake, confused, lost, no clear direction to take. The world suffocating, drowning in an endless racial debate. Sometimes wrong seems oh so right, struggling with guilt, a nauseating battle inside, wondering who is really running this show, the riff-raff clinging to the mic, wishing they would just go somewhere, take a hike. Sometimes I realize this world is too big, weighty problems, too heavy to carry, to tackle alone. Then I remember I'm not alone. Summoning the strength from God to carry on, all knowing, writing it down, transcribing note after note, sitting on the throne, separating the sheep from the goats. Thank you. End poem. Sometimes, we can barely stand it. Sometimes it's hard to tolerate. Sometimes it's hard to put up with. But we have an advocate that's going to help us get through some of those really dark and difficult times. And as a parent, particularly a mother, your kids can put you through some dark and difficult times. It doesn't always turn out the way you hope. It doesn't always turn out the way you want. But there is something, being a female myself, there is something about a woman's voice. In a variety of circumstances or situations, it's that woman's voice that has a tendency to bring stability. This piece is called Voices. And it was written, someone who I don't even know, she heard about me and she was having this women's program and she asked if I would write a piece. Now, it occurred to me, I had never in all my years written a piece just about women. And so it challenged me. And I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to write something. And this is during the month of March. And so I did. And it's called Voices. And I actually kind of like it. And I hope you like it too. It's called Voices. There is nothing more reassuring, nurturing than the tender sound of a woman's voice. Soft humming, rocking you back and forth until worries fall asleep. Voices of comfort when a friend is in despair, offering solace, sympathy, a sense of peace. The tenderness in a woman's voice is vulnerable, holding hurt inside, finding a quiet place to hide, releasing a flood of emotions, breaking down in a really good cry, voices crying out, welding a wrecking ball in anger and rage when you stepped out, got caught in stuttering lie, cascading in screams, praying the death of a loved one was some kind of joke, a cruel, twisted dream. Not joking by a long shot with a stern voice that can cut you to the core. Have you lost your mind? Who do you think you talking to, seeping out of every pore, pivoting to a sultry, silky smooth as honey tone when desires demand so much more. Dripping honey and blues, gospel, country, and all that jazz, crying out, sing that song, girl, tap dancing as fast as you can to a world of pressures and unreasonable demands, walking shoulder to shoulder for women's rights, equal pay, respect, and dignity deserved by every woman and man, a forceful voice. Strongly held believes rallying against workplace violence, safety in the streets, nursing a grief-stricken voice, a healing balm in her laughter rising from deep within the gut, dancing on dusty floors, shaking, swaying in the room, jubilant, a succulent flower in full bloom, tightly grasping a bouquet of white roses, smiling from cheek to cheek from the stands on the football, baseball field. There is no other. That's my child voice. Sweeter sound from the stands, a voice of a mom cheering, encouraging. That's my child from the sidelines. The scent of roses from Private Ryan. A soldier blown apart when he touched down with the knees suffocating on the ground. A mother's soothing, consoling voice in prayer, kissing away tears. Eyes closing to that sweet sound. A woman's no nonsense yet forgiving voice has the power of force, gale winds, lightning strikes from the sky, patiently battling storms, serenity of a calm sea calling to the heavens from the branches of a sacred fig, giant sequoia trees calling out to sisters flying by, hollering encouragement, her warm breath. The wind beneath our wings, our positive affirmation, our sweet, holy water nourishment. Thank you. End poem. I bet you could think of some woman's voice that reminds you of this piece. So the next one I'm going to read for you is called Mustard Seeds. And I'm a member of the African American Writers Alliance, and we're asked to speak and to share spoken words at a wide variety of venues and events and locations. And I've performed at art galleries and museums and bookstores and schools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, talking about art galleries, this piece was written in response to a painting at an art gallery. I see if I can create an image for you. Anytime I'm in an art gallery and I'm writing a piece, I always look for children or seniors. I'm just drawn to that. And so here is this painting of a little brown girl with big hair and frizzy curls. And then there's the words that are going around her head, and you only see her head and then her neck. Adorable little girl. And it had to do with mustard seeds, the mustard seeds of little girls with wild curls. And I thought, that's it. That's my painting. That's what I'm going to write a piece on. And this is called Mustard Seeds. So I just need you to visualize this little girl in this painting. And it's called Mustard Seeds. When they buried us, they didn't know we were seeds. Mustard seeds of little girls with wild curls, unable to soar with a flock of wild women who changed the world when they buried us. When they buried us, we were seeds. They could not have known we were black mustard seeds from the Middle East, full of promise, the promise of little girls with wild curls ready to bloom into the hope of wild women who changed the world when they buried us. When they buried us, they refused to believe that we were seeds, mustard seeds, brown mustard seeds, Himalayan girls with wild curls, with a power and potential to become strong, wild women who changed the world when they buried us. Oh, when they buried us in a rich nutrient soil, tilled to receive healing mustard seeds of little girls with wild curls breaking ground, stretching into the sky to touch the stars, of wild women who nourish and replenished the world. When they buried us, the earth warmed and protected the medicinal mustard seeds of little girls with wild curls, becoming the ghosts of wild women who dared question the world when they buried us. When they buried us, they minimized the importance of pods containing mustard seeds of little girls with frizzy curls, a future of leadership and influence as wild, fearless women who changed the world. And when they buried us, they buried the mustard seeds of light, darkening the world void of little girls with wild, unruly curls, innocent, wide-eyed spirits, hearts of gold a crying mother will never hold, future untold of afros, brazen dreadlocks playing in the park, running inside after dark, climbing trees, breaking leaves, becoming pollen of faith in the nectar for honeybees who changed the world. End poem. Thank you. Mustard seeds. So that's part of the things that I see. Little girls with wild curls who may not have the opportunity, who may not have the chance because their hopes and dreams have been buried, and they won't become wild women with so much courage and so much talent to change the world. The next piece is a longer one. And of course I say the longer one for last. And it's called The Interview. And it's an interview of Dr. Martin Luther King. Of course, we celebrated Martin Luther King Day, we celebrate Black History Month. And again, during January and February, particularly African American poets and writers and authors and artists are called out more often than not to share our talents around Martin Luther King Day and around Black History Month. One of the questions that I would often get and hear other people ask, what would Martin Luther King do? You know, today, how would Martin Luther King see this situation today? How would Martin Luther King react today? Would Martin Luther King march today? And so I thought, okay, let's ask him. So let's do an interview. The stuff I see is Martin Luther King responding to those questions. So this is called The Interview. It was long overdue, excited by the thought, interviewing an iconic historical figure that brought legal system to their knees and transit systems to a stop. So many questions and emotions invaded his mind, the interviewer could not help but feel anxious by the pressure, and he began to opine. Am I the right one? Will I ask all that needs to be said? Should I wait for a better day, a different time instead, grabbing his pad and pen as electronics were not permitted inside, he was prepared as possible to avoid Boondocks version, ensuring his interview avoided all aspersions. The king gestured for him to come sit with him by a soothing lake flowing with milk and honey as golden flakes gently drifted down, blanketing the road, sparkling, shining like freshly fallen snow. The interviewer gave homage to the king, praising him for virtually everything: the Montgomery bus boycott, March on Washington, prayer at the Pettus Bridge, beatings, being jailed, unable to be present for his wife and kids. The interviewer had a job to do, and he hoped he would do it well. Thus, he began his quest searching for responses to silence the endless debates, pulling aside the curtain, setting the record straight. Knowing all of his most famous quotes, the interviewer began to speak, intending to provide the context and closure man has continued to seek. Dr. King, he said, and I quote, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." And I quote, "An individual has not started living until he can rise above the mere confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity." You have also said, Dr. King, "He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who perpetrates it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating it." And then finally, Dr. King, you have said, "We have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now." If I might ask, Dr. King, what would you do today about environmental irresponsibility? As an ultimate measure of a man, I would kneel. Even if uncomfortable and inconvenient as the health of the environment is everyone's responsibility. And then, Dr. King, what would you do today about rampant homelessness and abject poverty? For the broader concern of all humanity, I would kneel, asking for wisdom to feed the people and to house the homeless. Thank you, Dr. King. I have another question I'd like to ask you. What would you do today about ongoing racism, discrimination, and injustice? In times of challenges and controversy, I would kneel and continue to love with nonviolent resistance. Well, speaking of violence, Dr. King, what would you do today about rising police brutality against blacks, African Americans? Not one to passively accept evil, I would kneel, as I have also experienced brutality. Then, Dr. King, moving on to something else, what would you do today about the alleged harassment, unequal pay, and disrespect towards women in the workforce? to rise above the narrow confines of individual concerns, I would kneel and stand with them as I stood with Rosa Parks. Then, thank you, Dr. King. As you already know, we have a problem with guns in this country. What do you have to say about the proliferation of guns? It is right. It is always right to do what is right. I would kneel as violence begets violence. Dr. King, as a minister, a reverend, a preacher, what would you do today about the absence of prayer in schools and the lack of faith or even a belief in the existence of God in the lives of over half the American population? On behalf of our doubt and unbelief, I would kneel and pray for all to find what they are seeking. Speaking of kneeling, Dr. King, you kneeled with others on the Pettus Bridge. What would you say today about the kneeling controversy during the national anthem? Refusing to cooperate or perpetuate evil in solidarity and unity, I would kneel. Well, thank you, Dr. King. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So finally, I have one more question. What would you say to the people after hearing Trump call all Mexicans rapists, referring to Haiti and the African nations as shitholes, and describing Kim Jong-un as a lunatic, loser, madman, and little rocket man? The brilliant orator, reverend, compassionate, and selfless humanitarian Nobel Peace Prize winner was imperfect, but he cared deeply without reservation for the well-being and fair treatment of all human beings. With that, he said, I would kneel, praying with others that although we all came on different boats, y'all on the same dark, dank, hostile, violent, and tormented slave ship now, where the chickens have come home to roost. From his second-floor apartment, he woke as the clock began to ring. Light breaking through the night, shining on his balcony, a pen and pad in hand, specks of gold on his pillow, unsure if the interview was real or if he had just had a dream. Thank you. End poem. Actually, that was kind of like an end story, wasn't it? Thank you so much for joining me. I truly hope that you've enjoyed every piece. And again, it's the stuff that I see. And as poets, spoken word artists, we have a different way often of viewing circumstances and situations. And it's just our spin on it, our take on it, and making sure that it has some sort of an artistic flair as well. So again, I am so pleased. I'm really, really happy that you were willing to come into this room. And as again, I hope you've enjoyed every single piece. And though some of them may have been, even for me, some of my own pieces are sad, but I always try and end on some sort of a positive note. So the stuff we see is difficult, But we always have to think there's hope, and we always have a positive spin on it. And we always believe there is a way for things to get better and to be better when we all choose as individuals to do what we can to make society a better place for the next generation. Thank you. Bye.